Hey guys, it's Stas. Happy Homebrew Wednesday. I've been nominated to do a top 5 beers from Korea Wolf. So, here's my top 5 beers. These are in no particular order. And I have made a few little notes that I'm going to be pulling up on the screen, so if I look over there, that's what it's about. I tried to kind of get a spread of beers which represent my palate, because I don't really favour hoppy or malty beers. And I tend to do lots of one-off batches. I don't often go back and re-brew stuff. And I tried not to include beers like I did the Dogma, the Brewdog Dogma, which I subbed some Manuka smoked malt and some Manuka honey in. It was a really good beer, but it wasn't really my recipe, so I didn't make the cut. Anyway, enough of that. Actually, why don't we start with this beer? This is my Milky Way Porter, but it's not my top 5. I'll tell you why in just a minute. I do like the beer, but I can't take all the credit for it, because it was based... Well, was it based heavily? Yeah. I used this beer as a guide. The Dulce Vida, the Sweet Life Porter, originally by Randy Mosher. That's got pale malt, biscuit malt, brown malt, chocolate malt. I used my own Cascade hops. That was a pretty special moment to put homegrown hops in a beer. And some homemade caramel. That turned out really well. Really like the way the sweetness and the maltiness of the beer worked with the slight zing and fruitiness of the Cascade hops. So that was the inspiration to this beer. I think this beer is pretty good. Actually, I think it's pretty good. Very good. I'm pretty happy with it, but I can't take full credit for this beer. I subbed a couple of things and took a different spin on it using all Australian hops, the Topaz and the Ella for this one, but it's kind of a tie between these two. I'm pretty happy with that. Anyway, enough about that beer. That was number 5. These are in no particular order. Well, it's number 1. It's the first one, whatever. The next one on the list is the Triple Carmelite. This beer is a bit of a special beer for me that I brewed. Although it was a clone, it was by far one of the more involved beers that I've done. A long lagering time, and it is such an iconic and it's a special beer, and it's a beer that you cannot hide any faults in, just because of the style, the triple style. I was really happy with the way that it turned out. Side by side comparison, it wasn't 100%. It didn't have the same body, which is interesting. But anyway, nonetheless, Triple Carmelite, I was pretty happy with that one. Right, let's go to my third choice, which is Phil's Wish. Now, this is a beer that was brewed at the request of my father-in-law, hence Phil, father-in-law. He was telling me about this beer that he had at Monk Brewery in Western Australia, and he was saying if you can make a beer like that, he'd be pretty happy. This is one of the few beers that I've actually gone back and done multiple versions when he's come to visit. He He's had a taste. He gave me feedback, and this says version 5. I actually think there were only 4 versions, and there were 2 versions of the last iteration. So this is it. But it's a really simple malt bill, Maris Otter and Caramel 60. That's it. Just a bittering edition, and then Citrus, Simcoe, and Amarillo for the 10-minute edition, and a dry hop again of Amarillo, Citra, and Simcoe. Almost equal amounts. I gave Amarillo a bit more of a kick because it's lower in alpha acid. So, but as you can see in the picture, it turned out that was when it was. I think I just kegged it when I took that photo, so it was still a bit cloudy. It did drop clean, clearer, but it was still a bit hazy. So yeah, really happy with that recipe. Yeah. Let's go to this guy, the Creme Brulee, which is a clone-ish of the Southern Tier Creme Brulee Imperial Stout. This one was one of the first beers that Beefy, or John JB, and I really wanted to brew. It's one that he'd had over in the States. He was raving about it, and I was intrigued, so we brewed it up, and its maiden voyage was actually, we were going down to a house for the weekend with a bunch of band members that I was playing with at the time to record some demos. So we took a keg of this one, the Southern Tier Creme Brulee, and the next beer, which is the Coffee Nut, but more on that later. So that was our liquid inspiration, and we had it with I think it was chocolate muffins, and it was so good, so sweet, but packed a punch. I think it was about 8% or so. So the first time we brewed it, it was a light brown colour. I've since gone back and brewed it again every winter, except this winter, and I made it much darker to be more closer to the original, but it's just like it's a beautiful dessert beer. It is sweet and over the top, and I think my father-in-law's comment was, "That's cheating. That's not beer," but it's delicious nonetheless. Which brings me on to the last beer that I have chosen for my top 5. It's really hard to get a top 5 list together. This one was an interesting beer for me because at the time I was, starting to experiment in all grain and kind of really see what the possibilities of all grain are. So this is a nut brown ale with cold steeped coffee, and as you can see, it's a reasonably standard nut brown ale with ale malt, carrot pills, chocolate malt, and brown sugar. Pretty hefty dose of brown sugar with just Willamette Fuggles, so English style hops. But then it gets about a litre of cold steeped coffee in the keg, and that thing, especially if you get the blend of coffee right, so it's like maybe not a dark roast, but sort of a medium dark roast, so you get like lots of caramel and nutty flavours in the coffee. It just came out really good. Actually, almost we're looking to sell it at a hip cafe in Melbourne, but we ended up not doing that because we didn't want to be locked into brewing that every weekend on our 20 litre system every weekend. So we didn't do that. We just put in the bag of good recipes to brew. So that's my top 5. There's lots of other beers that I would made it in, but I think this is a nice representation of all the sorts of beers that I like to brew, which aren't commercial like kits or recipes. Tried to avoid those. But anyway, I guess I have to nominate people now. Now, Dino has just done a blanket New Zealand. I could do a blanket Australia, but I don't think I will. But I reckon Gash would probably not enjoy doing this at all. Just kidding. No, but I'd like to hear what your top 5 beers are, Gash. Also, Les from Idleham to Idle. I can't remember the name of the channel. I'll put it here. Les, tell me what your top 5 beers are, and who else? Byron, new father Byron. I think yeah, I'd like to hear what you have to say. That's my 3. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed my top 5. Thanks for sticking around, and I hope everyone's having a great week. Cheers.